Show is being, yeah.
Yeah, it's coming on there now. One second. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the last edition for this year of the Azure and AI Show. We have Dan Ray with us in Chicago, and we have Prathap in India, and myself, Frank Falvey from Cork in Ireland. Today I have a kind of presentation that's going to do a mix presentation of Azure inside PowerPoint, and I'm going to use AI to kind of show you how to give a nice presentation. So I'll just share my screen with you. So I'm just going to do this one on kind of an overview of Azure in the slides, but I'll be using Microsoft Designer inside in PowerPoint. So I think Dan done some of this stuff before, but I just kind of put a presentation together to show you kind of how it will actually. Can you see my screen there?
Yep.
Welcome
It's
to
visible.
Microsoft Azure. So this is the plain presentation that I just put together, all the text and white backgrounds. So I'm going to use here now. So like the AI will actually pick up some of the words that's actually on the screen, and it will actually give me some samples to go. So welcome to Microsoft Azure, exploring the power of Microsoft Azure. This is an introduction to cloud computing and Azure. So I'm just going to make this go up to the top here on the top right hand side. I'm going to Microsoft Designer. So it's just going to connect in here now. Hopefully, just hide this one. Yes, so on the right hand side, and the designer comes up. So as you can see, it's picking up welcome to Microsoft Azure there on the top one. And it's giving us a few sample slides. So if I click on that one there, it'll actually populate the center. It'll really make your presentation look very good. So it's actually picking up on the words, and it knows what you want. So we just go down one or two of them. So that one looks nice. Or if you want something simple like that. And as you scroll down along, it'll give you a few, and you can click on more designs if you want. So this is a really cool one here. So we'll just move on through the slides as we go, and we'll see how the AI will actually pick up on the words. So the next one is here. So as you can see, what is Microsoft Azure? Understanding Azure, right? So definitions of Microsoft Azure, cloud computing explained briefly, Microsoft Cloud Computing Platform, scalability, flexibility, and services offered. So this is kind of like I'm reading through the PowerPoint as I'm going. So we just kind of pick out some what so it actually picks up the words inside it, and it gives you kind of whatever slide you like. So it's kind of putting it in
Yeah, and one of the cool things is, you have more than is on the screen too.
yeah, it's very cool, Dan. It's so we'll just pick this one here anyway. So I'm
Looks
kind of
good.
going through, yeah, that's it's nice, and it's takes the kind of boring white slides out of it. So on the next one there, you see it's no there's IoT in it and databases and storage, right? So it kind of picks up some of the words inside it. So we just So on this slide here, anyway, it's talking about the features of Microsoft Azure, scalability and flexibility of the cloud, the global reach, availability zones, um, broad array of services like compute, storage, databases, artificial intelligence, IoT, Internet of Things, and so on. It's got hybrid capabilities and integration with on-premises infrastructure, security, compliance, and privacy measures. So, like you see, like buzzwords like security there and wherever. So, like it's kind of giving you probably picks up the security and it gives you kind of a lock feature there. So that's kind of where that's probably coming from. You can go for other stuff like features there, but we'll pick that lock one there and we'll
I
go
like
to
the
the,
lock. That's a good one.
yeah. I was thinking that's probably picked up the security inside it, you know, and it's probably using a lock as the feature for that one. So the next slide then is kind of Azure Services overview. So we got compute like virtual machines, Azure Kubernetes service, storage like blob storage, file storage. It's got databases like SQL database, Cosmos DB, and the networking part, virtual networks, Azure Express Route. It's got AI and machine learning, Azure Machine Learning, Cognitive Services, Internet of Things like the IoT Hub, IoT Central. It's got developer tools for Azure DevOps and Visual Studio Code. So we'll see what it actually picks up on the side here out of the thing. So as you can see there, it's got a kind of motherboard. It's picking up our storage, our compute part. The other one, you can see it's kind of picking up some of the buzzwords and it's throwing them in. So I think we'll click this one for our storage because databases and storage and compute. So we'll just move on to the next one. So benefits of Microsoft Azure. So it's the cost effectiveness of it was pay as you go subscription. So you just pay for what you use basically and shut it down here. Um, Agility and speed in the deployment and scalability, reliability and high availability, innovation with cutting edge technologies, integration, development environments and tools. So we'll just go down the side here and see what did it pick up. So
Probably scalability or trying to
yeah,
think of what other word.
yeah, I suppose this one is kind of picking up kind of scalability, like on the
Yeah,
page. Yeah. Um,
definitely.
yeah, so we'll just see if there what's in the more ideas. Yeah, so maybe this
There you
one.
go.
Yeah, so that's that one. Go on to the next one. So Azure in action, right? So use cases, Azure use cases. So enterprise solutions for large corporations, startups, small businesses leveraging Azure for growth, government and the public sector applications, education and research institutions benefit from Azure. So we'll see what it picked up there now for that. Okay, startup businesses, public sector. See more designs. I think when you go on it there, then that you probably have to go out maybe for each slide. Did you?
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I've found that you have to go through each slide.
yeah, so for this one, I'll just go out of the designer and go back in again, and we'll see, will it pick up something different for this one. Actually, I'll go back.
Sometimes if you go back, it seems
Yeah.
to pick up different things, but it also sometimes
different
goes
ones.
with like the theme that it saw.
Yeah, so this one here now, I'll just come back to a blank canvas, and I'm going to go into the designer again, and we'll see will it kind of pick up.
Yeah, every time we can see the different forms of the designer tablets.
Yeah, so let's see more designs. So yeah, I think you have to go out of it for each design. So I have this one done now, so I'm just going to exit the designer and go to the next slide. And this one is getting started with Azure, creating an Azure account, navigating to the Azure portal, basics of setting up resources like virtual machines, databases, etc. Documentation and learning resources are available. So some of these stuff like Microsoft Docs, Microsoft Learn is a good one. So we'll just go into our designer and we'll see, will it pick up anything here? Interesting. So yeah, there's our databases. So this is our symbol for database. And did it pick up anything for documentation? Let me see more designs.
Sometimes, Frank, if you turn it off and you change where it says getting started,
okay,
the second, like the subtitle, I guess it would be, change that to the word like, getting started with documentation or something.
okay,
About
so
a designer.
Come out of the designer,
yeah,
and change getting started with
Azure to maybe getting started with documentation, because then it'll see the header. And I think the header is what it's reading maybe first. You've got DU there.
Okay,
Change
got
the
the wrong, that is 0. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
And then if you go back into designer, it should read the title again.
Okay.
And we'll see if it gets something more documentation related. Well, it's getting database for certain.
It's probably picking up this one maybe. So if we get rid of this one.
There you go. Yeah.
So there we go with our documentation. So yeah, that's cool then. So we just go to designer and we'll go to our next slide. See what we have there. So we got security and compliance inside here. So we'll be interested to see what we actually come up with now. So yeah, the security part again. See, it's got the lock inside in it. So yeah, so this is Azure security and compliance. Azure's robust security measures, compliance certifications like ISO, SOC, GDPR, etc. Data encryption and privacy controls. And there's also role-based access controls and identity management. So just moving on, I'll just go out of that designer again. And so as you can see, is the presentation is kind of really building up now. So from just having the plain text. So we'll see Azure pricing models. It's an overview of Azure pricing models, pay-as-you-go and reserved instances. Factors influencing costs, usage, services, regions. So they're only all kind of highlights of all the different kind of pricing, like cost management tools and best practices. So we'll just see what the designer pulls up for us here. Azure pricing. So is it giving us anything with money in it or models? Okay, so we'll use this one. Or we got in this one.
There we go. That looks good.
Yeah, that looks good. So we move on to the next one. I just have one or two left. So we're kind of at the end, like, so conclusion and next steps. So a recap of Azure, key features, benefits and services, encouragement to explore Azure further, resources for continued learning and support, like I was saying, that documentation. And the community part is like us being here on the show this evening or this afternoon. And it's nighttime in India. So on the training part then is like go to Microsoft Learn or stuff like that. There's a lot of training videos inside there. So I'll just go back one there and turn off the designer and go forward again. We'll see what it pulls up for the conclusions. What's this one? Conclusions, got getting staircases over there for some reason. Yeah, there's a good one for conclusions, the little light bulb and whatever. So it's just turn it off now. So for the next one, so this one here, I actually tested this one earlier. So we'll see questions. There you go.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so that's a kind of PowerPoint presentation kind of about Azure and the Microsoft Designer, the AI piece of it. So that was that.
Excellent. Do you want me to show some Copilot
Oh yeah, Dan.
use cases? Cool.
Looking forward to the Copilot thing, yeah.
I figured, Frank, for you, end of the year, this is your Christmas present. Somebody gave me a Christmas present, so I'm giving you an early holiday gift here too.
Okay, cool.
So let me know if you can see this.
One second now, just add it to the screen. Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Yeah, so Paul reached out to me on my Copilot sandbox. So the MVPs, I believe the Microsoft 365 MVPs. So this might not be Solomon or Matthew or the Azure focused MVPs. Got an early gift from Jared at Microsoft, who posted about the fact that we were going to get sandbox access to Copilot. So the benefit to this is there wasn't a lot for me to configure, but Paul ended up putting an article about first look at Microsoft 365 Copilot out on his blog, and mentioned to me that this got picked up by some news organizations and really had some impact on his numbers from a blog perspective, which is great. And he's got a couple screenshots here of using Copilot. And Paul is actually in my sandbox. So the thing that happens with us in the sandbox is they put a number of us in the same sandbox. And I sent out an email at, I want to say, it looks like 6:41 this morning, my time, and it may have been earlier, but that was the time that I see in here that I've mentioned to everybody that I had a group that I created, and then I turned that group into a Microsoft 365 team so that we could use that group Copilot Sandbox as a way to play around together with Copilot. So if I took Paul's email and decided, it may make sense to reply to him. I don't know if you can see that pop out. Let's see what's showing up in the window. It looks like we're good there. If I go into a reply all, then I get Copilot up here in Outlook Online. So I have the ability to either draft with Copilot or coach with Copilot. And if I draft with Copilot and I say, come up with a catchy title for a LinkedIn post about Paul's article. Let's see what it can come up with here. Top insights from Microsoft 365 Copilot, expert analysis. And so it must have picked that up from the information that Paul sent me and understands that I'm putting this on LinkedIn and used my name that's in the sandbox. I go by Dan a lot of times, but Daniel is my account that's set up. So it picks that up. It doesn't pick up any other information necessarily. I could configure a signature in here. I don't have a signature configured just yet. But basically, the sandbox has about 300 of us that are in the same tenant. So instead of having to kind of play around and build out Copilot scenarios by myself, I have a capability to actually build it out with others. So if we hop over to PowerPoint, and Frank, I loved your example of a Azure presentation. We can go into Copilot and we'll see in Excel, we get information about creating a presentation, creating it from a file, or adding a slide about something. So we could start with create a presentation and then say about Azure physical data centers. And then like Designer that you showed, Copilot is like Designer on steroids. What it can do for me is build information from the internet and put together multiple slides that already have kind of that Designer look and feel into them. And that first step gives me typically 5 slide results. I think that must be kind of a default that's built in at this point, is to build out 5 slides. So I see a security and resiliency slide with a security cam. I see sustainability and efficiency, and you can see that it didn't get the font spacing just right from a standpoint of PowerPoint Online, or the size and the font choice. I could always go in and change my font size here for my header, or change my font itself. Once I've got that initial build of the different slides, I can even just QA or QC the slides to make sure that the information that it is provided is correct. Global reach, there's over 60 regions worldwide. Customers can choose the location of their data for data sovereignty, compliance reasons. Express route is available. And then we have an innovation and scale. Microsoft at Ignite at the end of 2023 announced a number of processors that are coming to Azure and GPUs along with NVIDIA. There were just a ton of announcements. So we have a processor here, and then we have a conclusion slide. So if there were something specific that I want a slide about, I could come up here and say, add a slide about the physical security surrounding a Microsoft Azure data center. We'll see if I can find information about that and maybe an appropriate photo for it. Sometimes with my experimentation so far, I've gotten situations where it doesn't necessarily follow exactly. It may say, here you go, here's exactly what you asked for. But in this case, I'm not real happy with it reusing the slide. So I can always go to change picture, and I could go to the stock images. And from the stock images, I could say physical building or building. Picking up physical more than building. So here we've got some buildings, and we could go with either a building that looks like it might be a Microsoft data center. We might even be able to put things like data center in here. Nope. Building definitely worked. Maybe this one up in the corner is a good one to replace it with, just to show maybe the entrance or something, or the depiction of an entrance for the physical security measures and fire detection, dual power, internet connectivities coming in and redundant, multi-layered physical security. Typically there's a fence around the entrance to a Microsoft data center. And we have this as now slide number 7. So we could always move it up so it's above the conclusion of our slides. And then even with the conclusion, as Frank demonstrated, I still have the ability to use the designer within my slides because I already have a background here. It's kind of using that as the point to start with for the suggestions. But I can also go into PowerPoint review. Is it in the online version or not? This is one of the things that I think might be missing from the slide master. So we have to open in the desktop app for slide masters to work with those. So a couple things about Designer and Copilot working together in PowerPoint. And then if we take a look at Microsoft Word, we can type in word.new. .new is a top-level domain owned by Google. I did a little bit of research to figure out who owns the .new domain. And Google has either been kind enough or may have charged Microsoft. I don't know the details behind that use, but they have Word.new, PowerPoint.new, and Excel.new as shortcuts or short addresses that you can use to create your own brand new Word, Excel, or PowerPoint file. You just go to a browser, type PowerPoint.new. If you're not logged in, you'll be prompted to log in. And if you're like me and you were given an early holiday present, I'm logged in, so I have Copilot, and in Word, Copilot greets me right away. So as opposed to waiting around and having to find it on the ribbon or initiate it somehow, Copilot's right there waiting to help me with this Word document. So I could say, create a outline for Azure Data Fundamentals. One of the courses that Microsoft has for the fundamentals of Azure is Azure Data Fundamentals. So we've just asked for an outline for an existing course. And then we have relational data in Azure, NoSQL data in Azure, data analytics in Azure, a conclusion, and at the top, the core data concepts. So I could always ask it to do additional information, like include details about types of Azure blob storage. And then it's going out, pulling sources, getting information, and then typing in the results here. Introduction, we're getting different information in an introduction here. We're getting prepare for exam, the Azure Data Fundamentals exam, so it pulled information about that. We're getting information about structured data, semi-structured data, tabular data, batch data, big data, life cycle of data. So a much more detailed outline this time, just by saying include some information on the different types of blob storage.
That's quite cool, Dan.
Yeah,
It's
it's been kind of like Chat GTP, but put on a different type of interface or capabilities. So Copilot and playing around with it within the Microsoft apps has been really eye-opening about how much data it can gather, and starts you off with a place to maybe refine from as opposed to a blank canvas. And Designer has been added to Word as well. You'll notice it right next to Copilot on at least the online version of Word. I'm not sure if that's shown up in the full version of Word yet. But Designer here does something similar to what Frank was showing in PowerPoint specifically. As I'm getting all of this information, and I'm on page 5 already, it looks 5 of 5 so far. My Designer suggestions will be based on the information that is available in the document. So I can either tell it to stop generating or wait till it's finished generating. And then from a design perspective, get suggestions on how to maybe make this look more like a computer manual, training manual, or some other types of suggestions there with Designer. And it looks like it's having an issue opening at the moment, but something similar to what you saw with Frank there. And then finally, we can open Excel and take a look briefly at Excel in Copilot. From a Copilot perspective, in Excel, you need to start with a data set. So you can either pull up a data set, create your own data set, and you need to put that data set into a table. So one of my favorite things to do with Excel lately is to take a look at things like stock prices. So if we list off a few stocks here, and let's do Amazon.
I might throw in Broadcom there.
And Broadcom, right? Let's add all of those here. Frank, you used to work for Dell and Apple, right? Now you're at Broadcom?
No, I'm with Pomeroy.
Okay, that's a was Broadcom are they a partner for Broadcom, or am I just mistaken?
Broadcom bought VMware there recently. They're a chip manufacturing company, but they're moving into a different area now, like VMware and security and stuff like that.
I would even put VMware down here, and who else? Let's put Intel down. and NVIDIA. So we've got 9 rows now. If I highlight those 9 and I choose stocks from the data menu, this will go out and just figure out if I've got enough information to convert that first column into the stocks that I have listed. And we could add a first row here and call this stocks. And then if we highlight these stocks, we have the ability to put in related information into what will turn into a table. So we could put in the price, expand that out to take a look at what the price of Broadcom and VMware is listed at. We could put in the 52-week high and the 52-week low for the stocks. Low, high, and we've got price. And then if we turn this into a table, we have a convert here by Copilot because it sees the data now. Now we have the ability to do various things with Copilot to have it show us data insights, which is essentially using the same type of analyze data functionality. We could have show suggestions for formula columns, or have it highlight and filter and sort our data. So show items with the stocks of value, bold the first column, highlight the highest values in high. So it does all the work to look at the data, figure out the column that's high, and then will give us some highlighting effects here on our data.
So Broadcom, they actually make the chips for the artificial intelligence.
Cool.
That's why their share price has gone so high, as you can see.
Got it. Yeah.
500,000.
Yeah. In the last 52 weeks, that's a pretty large spread.
Yeah.
NVIDIA's got a pretty large spread as well, like 3 or 4 times as much. So we could also look at, having Copilot write formulas or other types of manipulation within the spreadsheet itself. And then finally, we looked at Copilot in Outlook from a standpoint of a existing mail and a response. I can also do that with a first draft Copilot team in MVP Sandbox. Invite the designer group to a Copilot in Teams meeting in the MVP Sandbox. Let's see what that comes up with. Hope this email finds you well. I would like to invite you to the designer, or invite the designer group to join a meeting in the MVP Sandbox with our Copilot teams. And so one of the last things that I have access to within the environment is the Teams application. And so I can come in here and take a look at previous test recordings I've done, take a look at the teams that I've created. There's an everyone public new team that I've been added to. And so I could look at the membership. It looks like there's 15 people in that. Copilot tips and techniques. And then there's a Microsoft Designer announcement team that I'm the only person in at this point. So if I go back to my email and I type in Microsoft Designer, see if we have a group associated with it. We don't. So let's say Copilots all. Which one did I create? Copilot Sandbox. Let's see if the sandbox is available for us. There we go. So there's the Copilot Sandbox that I created. We could say invite the Copilot Sandbox to our meeting. It's still up to me to kind of QA what happened and make any adjustments that I might need to. Add a signature if I didn't have a signature configured, anything else that I want in the response and a subject line. So we send that off. I believe that one's just going to me or a select group of people that I've put into that group. And then we can come over to Teams and we can look at my Copilot Sandbox. And in the upper right, we could do a meet now to immediately start a meeting. See what kind of audio sources I have. See if we can do this. My camera's in use, but the audio, I think, Frank, can you still hear me?
Yeah, you can hear you.
Awesome. I was hoping it would work. I can still do starting transcription. Take a look if the transcription is working from the other microphone. And it is, so it can see that I started transcription. We can see from the people that it's invited other people that are in the Sandbox, Copilot Sandbox group with me. And then in the chat, I could have, chat going on in the meeting, the transcription happening, turn on recording. And if I mention people like Serafina and make some suggestions on what Sarah might need to do in the future, I could have things like Copilot provide me a summary of the meeting, let it document and generate notes, check facts, and ask it other things about the meeting. So I can see here that Alexander and Sarah are part of the Sandbox group already, but I haven't added other people. Maybe I meant to as one of my tasks. Dan needs to go ahead and add additional people like Teresa and Peter Rising to the Sandbox group. And when we go into things like Copilot, we can say, go ahead and take notes for me. And we have more prompts at the bottom, so there's more that it can do than these three things. Daniel realized he had to add more people. Daniel mentioned some features of Copilot chatbot. And you can see that I have the chatbot in the upper left in Teams. So probably out of all of these, Outlook and Teams would be the most logical places for me to think about, Alexander, Sarah, Teresa, and probably, I don't know, maybe 50 other MVPs that I have either met or at least collaborated with on LinkedIn. And even if I don't have them at a meeting, Ami Diamond is in here. I can mention Ami. I can maybe suggest that people go out and we feature his YouTube channel in the new year. Maybe play some snippets from his YouTube channel, the different things that we might want to collaborate on or think about from a Copilot perspective. And Copilot can do all of that type of work for me, either in the meeting or even outside the meeting. So I can get key info, draft frequently asked questions, generate ideas, write an intro, and I can view the prompts that I have available. So if we end our meeting, we're back to just having Teams within a browser. And many of these same things show up in the full applications as well. So for instance, PowerPoint is probably the first place that I played around with the full version, and have had some mixed results with things that I've done in PowerPoint. So for instance, one thing that I asked it to do earlier today, we can do again and see if it does a better job with the results, is to document a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. So this time, instead of Teams, let's ask Copilot create an infographic. I'm not sure if it understands infographic just yet for Windows keyboard shortcuts. Let's see what it comes up with here. I posted my results from Teams keyboard shortcuts, but I had to basically confirm that the keyboard shortcuts were correct. This is the type of stuff that I would occasionally get from Copilot. Was it thinks it's done everything I asked. Here you are, Windows keyboard shortcuts on a slide, no additional information, no bullet points, nothing else in it. So it's not perfect at this point, but it's certainly, you get the prompt right, you get things written in such a way. Add a slide with Windows key plus numbers shortcuts as a tip for end users. Let's see if it can figure out what I'm asking there in a second slide. So it's going to go out, try to figure out what I'm asking for. This is what I got in the first example for the keyboard shortcuts in Teams. Was I got a picture of a keyboard shortcut. We can use pressing Windows key plus a number will open the application pinned to the taskbar in that position. For example, Windows key 1 will open the first app, which in my case is Explorer. And then the app right next to that, to the right, is Internet Edge. So if I took a picture of my taskbar in Windows 11 here and paste that into our screenshot, I could further explain Windows key 1 will open the first application. In my case, that's Windows Explorer. And then I could write a few more bullet points or rearrange the slide with Designer. Let's see if Designer is working in here correctly. So it's picked up that there was a keyboard in my slide design. If I get rid of that, we can see if it can figure out what it's going to do. Let's close Copilot and open Designer again. Or we could just say, add a visual of the Windows key on a keyboard. Let's see if it gives us the full keyboard or
The key.
really focuses in, and it focuses in on the wrong key. But you get the idea. You can either get really close. Sometimes you get kind of far off and you have to do some of the work yourself. so I could come in here and change the picture. But Frank, that is your early holiday greeting, and a gift from me to you is something I've been given access to. Congratulations on an entire year of hosting the Azure and AI Show and bringing so many wonderful people all around the world to this weekly. It's something that I think we talked about at the end of 2022 when we were thinking about how Journey to the Cloud would evolve in 2023. And you came up with the idea of first, like, let's do an AI show, and then decided let's also talk about Azure, because that encompasses a lot more than just artificial intelligence. But here at the end of the year, we're looking at the fruits of our labor in AI and Copilot and Microsoft Designer and so much more. So thank you so much.
So much stuff, yeah, with the AI in 2023, isn't it? It's kind of integrated into nearly every application now. So when will everybody have access to Copilot?
That's a great question, and one that we have asked both internally, as MVPs, as well as just roadmap information. I'm not aware of anything that's public other than Microsoft on either Thursday or Friday posted something later in the week about the education use of Copilot. And it sounds like for educators that work at EDU, there are some plans, and I don't remember if they had dates, but they certainly had plans to expand the use in education of Copilot. So how some of these things work, dates, and whether we have situations like a general availability that was announced that means a little bit different than other general availability announcements will be interesting, because when I think of general availability, I think of everybody having access to something. Microsoft Designer over the year has hit those different milestones, right? When we started 2023, one of the things the Microsoft Speakers Hub did was got a bunch of people into the early adoption and the sneak peek or early access to Microsoft Designer. We started a showcase page for Microsoft Designer, and then we all started getting our invites and kind of pooling those to get other people that participated or had interest access to Microsoft Designer early. At this point, I would consider Microsoft Designer generally available, because you just go and use a Microsoft account and you have access to create all these AI images and use some of the fun new things they've introduced, share prompts that you've come up with. I just saw somebody on Twitter or X shared a prompt to create a Funko pop, vinyl pop within a box, and did all the prompt engineering to figure out how to get it in the box with the right label on the box and make it a limited edition with different color schemes or colorways. It was an amazing prompt, and they shared that. So all you do is kind of fill it in with your details, like what do you want your name to be, what do you want to be wearing, what do you want to look like as a pop. And then it created this Funko branded box and depiction of you within Microsoft Designer. So that's what I would consider general availability. Whether you call this early access or you call this, preview or something else, it'll be interesting to see how Copilot takes those next steps on its journey, and how quickly, like Designer in a year had gone from like that limited sign up, tell your friends, send them an invite, to something that now we have available on the mobile device. It is still a limited preview. So I enrolled one of my mobile devices, I think 2, and I believe I still have access on those devices. But when I go to a new device or I'm logged in even as my account, sometimes it tells me the previews are, full and there's no ability to add more people to it.
Okay, cool. So I find myself using it every month now, the Designer, even for my blog. The pictures that I put up on my blog, they're all done from Microsoft Designer. It's just like, once you get used to using these tools and It's you know, I think graphic designers are going to find, you know, that it's going to affect their business. I'd say, you know, to what extent, but definitely, I think
Yeah, it's interesting when it gets something right and it gets it exactly the way you wanted it or envisioned it. It's amazing. To kind of the points we talked about, when it gets it wrong, that's where a human needs to intervene and, you know, think about, do I have the right representation and, you know, this graphic, or do I have the right wording? Because a lot of times it just kind of throws a sometimes what feels arbitrary title on your slides, and you might want to change the wording or change to corporate brandings. I know they introduced the branding kit too for designer, where you could put in your corporate colors and have things like logos that would kind of fit into your theme.
Yeah, I've seen that. All right, yeah, that's very good. How are you doing, Stephen?
Hey, Stephen.
Hi, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. How you doing today? I was watching on the YouTube. I actually joined. I was on trans, so I joined them. But I was the backstage, so I was joining. I later joined on YouTube, on the YouTube. So I just got home now. So let me join coming here.
Yeah, Dan was good.
It's quite amazing. Yeah, that was wonderful presentation. Yeah, Dan. Yeah, quite nice. Yeah,
Thank you.
I think Copilot is really making waves now. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, this seemed like a fitting way to provide Frank something. Frank was kind enough in 2023 to open his house to a complete stranger from the United States that was visiting Ireland. Matthew Brown picked me up from the airport, drove me to Limerick, Ireland, 3 hours away, hosted me. I met Frank. Frank hosted me an evening at his house in Cork. We were going back to Cork. We were taking a cruise with family. And so Frank told me everything I was supposed to do with the Blarney Stone. And when we visited Cork again, and we all went to the Microsoft campus over in Dublin, and they were entertained with the manual transmission car that I was attempting to drive that I couldn't even get in. I'm 6'4". I couldn't even fit into the car to attempt to drive a manual transmission car in Ireland. So the rental agency spokesperson or rental employee helped me find a car that I could fit in and would be safe driving around Dublin. So I kicked that off my bucket list and have driven in Ireland as well as London in 2023. So on the other side of the road, I won't say the right side of the road, but many people would say that too, because you're on the other side of the car driving.
Yeah, I had that experience as well. I drove in Norway.
Cool.
And every time I was kind of shifting gear, it was like I was opening the door.
It's interesting that at least the pedals are in the right order. I thought if the pedals are backwards, I'm not going to be able to do this. My brain just can't wrap around it. But using the other arm for shifting was probably the biggest challenge. But having the pedals in the right order and then turning was you have to give a lot of thought, or at least I found, my right turns are not my, tight turns. My left turns are tight. My right turns are, the opposite is what they are here in the United States, or places where they drive on the opposite side from what you learned.
Yeah. It's amazing how it all came about. That's we drive on different sides of the road.
Yes.
Interesting.
Corey has a comment about YouTube being a much better connection. Corey, it'll be interesting to see how the post, I guess, events look on LinkedIn versus YouTube, but we've found that having this on multiple platforms is one of the really cool things that we can do, is having multiple platforms. And Hina said that there was no voice. That could be something temporary. It could be that LinkedIn, if you were on LinkedIn, you just had the sound muted. And LinkedIn will also do a transcript or closed captioning for videos. So hopefully this will have closed captioning as well.
So I got an email there this week from StreamYard.
Mm-hmm.
They're adding, was it, a second now, they're adding Instagram to it.
Nice. I've been thinking about that. I was trying to figure out how people go live on Instagram, and I thought, well, there's got to be a way, because I've seen people do it, but I had not researched that enough. So getting that in StreamYard will be a nice feature.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So is it a very popular platform? Is comparison
In the US, it seems like it's very popular, especially photo or video focused. I don't know in the rest of the world how Instagram plays, or what demographic. Like my kids are both on Instagram and use it quite a bit. It's probably less social and more photos and video focused, similar to like Snapchat or other platforms, YouTube being video platform first. I'd say Instagram is probably photo first, and then video being like a secondary to photos, in my experience or what I've seen.
So this is the last one anyway, last show for this year. Then we'll be back probably the first Saturday in January.
Yeah. First Thursday we'll have Journey to the Cloud,
Quite
and then
amazing.
first Saturday we can start back up with these.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just going to end the live stream.
Excellent.
Over the hour.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holiday. Merry Christmas,
Happy
everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Merry Christmas from everybody at the Azure and AI Show. We'll be back in the first Saturday of January 2024. Thank you for joining us. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Yeah.